Okay, so let's dive in. Have you ever had that feeling, that subtle sense that you're just stuck? The weeks blur together, everything feels kind of the same. You're going through the motions, maybe scrolling a bit too much, feeling that pang of guilt, maybe promising yourself, this week things will be different. But, well, nothing really shifts. We all talk about it, right? Wanting to get better at English or live healthier, be more focused, maybe more creative or confident, but somehow we end up back in those same comfortable, safe patterns. And that brings us to the core idea we're exploring today, something that just kept coming up in the materials we looked at. It's a hard truth, maybe. If you change nothing, nothing will change. Seems so simple, almost too simple. But isn't it often those really straightforward truths that we kind of ignore? We tell ourselves, oh, I'll wait for the right time, or I need more motivation, or, things need to be perfect first. But that idea of one day, well, it can so easily become code for never, can't it?
It really can. And what's fascinating, and something our sources dig into, is how that very promise of one day acts like its own kind of invisible fence. There's this concept in behavioral science called status quo bias.
Yeah.
Basically, we're wired to prefer things as they are, even if as they are isn't great.
Right, because change feels uncertain.
Exactly. Change represents the unknown potential loss, even if it's just imagined loss, like losing comfort or predictability.
Mm.
So our mission today really is to unpack why we hold back. Why does change feel so, well, heavy? And more importantly, how even the absolute smallest shift, we're calling it a small new choice, can kind of sneak past those defenses and gently open up a new path for you. It's a quiet truth, but wow, it's powerful.
It really is something to think about. Because
Yeah.
holding back, it's often not this big conscious decision, is it? The source material suggests it's deeper. Change just feels uncomfortable,
Right.
fundamentally. The unfamiliar, it demands more brain power, more cognitive energy.
And our brains are masters of efficiency.
Yeah, they want to conserve that energy. So it's less about being lazy, maybe, and more about this primal wiring, prioritizing what's known, what's safe.
That's spot on. And this ties into things like decision fatigue, too.
Ah, right.
The more choices we feel we have to make, especially big ones, the more likely we are to just default, to stick with the familiar, the easy path.
Yeah.
And if you think about the bigger picture, I mean, neurologically speaking, our brains are literally built to repeat familiar patterns. Those neural pathways are like, well-worn roads. They're easy to travel.
Deep grooves.
Exactly. Trying to pave a new path, even if it leads somewhere better, that takes effort. It takes energy. And summoning that energy feels incredibly hard when you're already feeling maybe tired or discouraged, or you perceive some kind of risk involved.
So we resist change, not because we're weak, necessarily.
Not at all. It's more that our internal system at a really deep level is trying to protect us from failing, maybe looking foolish or investing effort in something that, well, might not pay off right away.
That's such an important distinction. Because we voice it differently, don't we? We say, oh, I'll start tomorrow, or I'm just too busy, or I don't even know where to begin.
Yeah.
But underneath all that, like the sources consistently point out, the real fear, often unspoken, is, what if I try and I still fail? What if I put in all this time and energy and nothing actually changes? So we freeze.
Yeah. We wait.
We distract ourselves. Scrolling, snacking, anything but that one thing we know might actually move us forward. And here's a thought from the research that's both powerful and, I think, quite gentle. Avoiding change doesn't actually protect your peace. It just delays your growth.
Which brings up a really interesting question posed in the material. What if we could reframe that fear? Instead of being stuck on, what if I fail? What could possibly open up if we shifted just slightly to asking, well, what might happen if I just try?
Because doing nothing, that's also a choice.
It absolutely is. Every single time you choose to stay exactly where you are by default also choosing to stay away from that life you say you want. But, and this is crucial, it's not about beating yourself up over this. It's not about blame.
No.
It's about seeing those hidden mechanisms, the things that keep us stuck, and figuring out how to gently, subtly disrupt them. You're not behind schedule. You're just standing right at the edge of what could be your next chapter, which is actually kind of exciting, isn't it?
Okay, yeah. Let's unpack that disruption piece.
Yeah.
How do we actually do that? The sources seem to agree. The secret often lies in that first really small yes. You absolutely don't need to overhaul your entire life overnight.
No, definitely not. Trying that is often counterproductive.
Right, it's too much. Maybe today you just make one tiny new choice.
Yeah.
That seems to be where the real momentum starts. real lasting change, according to the research. It rarely kicks off with some huge dramatic gesture. No need for those grand New Year, New Me declarations.
Hmm.
Instead, it just quietly builds up.
Yeah.
In these small, often very ordinary moments, big results, kind of surprisingly, aren't always about massive effort. They're about these tiny, consistent choices that just add up over time. Compound interest for your life almost.
And what's really interesting there is how these tiny choices tap into the power of what we call habit loops, the cue routine reward cycle. There was a great example in one source. Someone kept saying, I just don't have time to practice my English. Sound familiar?
Oh yeah, definitely.
So one day, instead of trying to find this mythical block of time, they just set a timer. 5 minutes, that's it. And listen to an English podcast. That was the small new choice. No pressure, no huge goal, just 5 minutes.
Okay.
Did it again the next day and the next. And pretty soon, those 5 minutes maybe became 10, then 20. Eventually, listening felt normal, almost automatic. The key wasn't the duration initially. It was breaking that pattern of waiting for the right time and just starting.
Just start.
And that tiny, consistent action didn't just add a habit. It subtly changed how they saw themselves. They went from being someone who doesn't have time to someone who makes time, even if it's just a little.
That's so powerful, especially when you pair it with that idea from the research that you don't rise to the level of your goals.
Yeah.
You fall to the level of your systems, your habits. So for you listening, what could that tiny choice be? Maybe it's writing down just one new English word each day,
Could be.
or taking the stairs instead of the elevator just once today, saying no to one notification that pops up, saying yes to 5 minutes outside, or maybe just saying one sentence in English out loud in the morning, even to yourself.
Micro actions.
Exactly.
Mhm.
The core insight seems to be you don't need this huge wave of motivation to wash over you before you start. You just need to initiate one tiny action. Move your hand, open the book, say the word, make one slightly different choice than you did yesterday.
Progress isn't about hitting perfection immediately.
No, it's about creating a new pattern, however small. And when you choose that new pattern deliberately, your future starts to shift. Subtly, maybe, but definitely.
And this brings us to something really important that the research tackles head on, this pervasive myth of perfection.
Ah, yes. The perfection trap.
Exactly. Perfectionism, one source called it a beautiful lie. It whispers things like, wait until you're absolutely ready. Do it perfectly. Or don't bother. People will judge you if you mess up.
Right. And what happens?
We get stuck in analysis paralysis. We rewrite that email 10 times. We don't speak up in English class because we're afraid of making a mistake. We avoid the gym or that difficult conversation or starting the new project because we just don't feel ready enough.
So what's the takeaway here for you listening? The truth, based on this deep dive, is you really don't have to be perfect to start. You just have to start to eventually get better. Progress is usually quiet. It's often messy. It's full of, okay, let's try that again. And critically, it doesn't always feel like success right away. Sometimes it just feels like, ugh, I only managed 5 minutes today.
Or I only understood half of that.
Yeah. Or I made 3 grammar mistakes when I tried to speak.
Yeah.
But guess what? That is still progress.
Yeah.
Because you showed up, you tried, you learned something.
Absolutely. And that alone is more than you did yesterday, perhaps. We need to let go of that mental highlight reel, the one where we imagine ourselves speaking flawless English overnight or waking up at 5 a.m. every day without fail, always eating perfectly clean.
Yeah, the Instagram version of progress.
Right. Life just isn't a flawless performance. It's more like a collection of really imperfect days strung together, and you are absolutely allowed to grow slowly. The sources are clear on this. Consistency always beats short bursts of intensity. And done, even imperfectly done, is infinitely better than perfect, but never started. So speak with mistakes. Study even when you're tired. Take that step even if your voice shakes a bit. Nobody's journey is a smooth upward curve from day one. Every fluent speaker was once a beginner fumbling for words. Every solid habit started as kind of an awkward experiment.
It's okay to stumble. It's okay to restart.
Totally okay. Don't measure the perfection. Measure the honesty of your effort, your consistency. If you keep showing up, keep trying, keep learning, something has to shift. In fact, something already starts shifting the moment you make that choice to try.
Let's just pause on that for a second. Maybe you've been waiting for the perfect plan or that burst of energy or the right words and just the right mood. But deep down, I think we all know that core truth we started with. Nothing changes if nothing changes. And that change doesn't need to be earth-shattering. It could be as small as one conscious deep breath before you react to something frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
One kind word you offer yourself after you make a mistake instead of criticism. One page read in a book. One extra block walked. One sentence spoken aloud in English.
Your future really isn't built in some single dramatic day of transformation. It's constructed in these small, often quiet, consistent choices that you make today and tomorrow and the day after. You don't have to fix your entire life right now. Just subtly shift one thing. And the rest, because of compounding, because of how habits form, it will start to follow, often quite organically. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are simply becoming. And truly, one small, brave act each day can unlock a completely new path for your life.
So as we wrap up this deep dive today, maybe just hold on to this quiet reminder. No more waiting, no more needing perfect timing. Just one honest step forward. So I'll just leave you with this question. Gently, no pressure. What is one small change, however tiny, that you feel ready to make today? Don't overthink it. Just kind of feel into it. What feels possible? It might seem insignificant, and that is perfectly, profoundly okay. Remember, all the big changes, they really do start in these unseen, often quiet moments of choosing differently. Just one honest step.